I've changed the main board and added a touchscreen on this Monoprice Mini Delta, and oh, it's also completely portable. This is my Monoprice Mini Delta 3D printer, and I'm a big fan of it. I've made 2 videos on it before. The first, my review video, where I found it had outstanding print quality. The second, a video of fixes and upgrades, many of which came from the really strong community behind this printer. As you saw in the intro, this time I've gone a lot further. Not only have I upgraded the main board with the BTT SKR Mini E3, as well as a matching TFT 35 dual mode touchscreen, I've also made it completely portable. It's got internal LiPo batteries, but it's also set up so you can switch between the internal LiPo batteries and any external 12-volt power supply on the fly, even while it's printing. In this video, I'm going to walk you step by step how to do this conversion, how it works, as well as some use cases which exploit its newfound capabilities. I've designed everything to be modular, so we'll start our first part of the video with the mainboard and touchscreen upgrade. Our initial aim is for a clean install of the new mainboard and touchscreen, and originally I planned to use a plain SKR Mini, but I abandoned it because it didn't support a heated bed and it was also quite buggy. Instead, I used the SKR Mini E3 dip. This is normally intended for an Ender 3, but it does a great job here and fits well. The non-dip version would also be compatible, and this one comes with TMC 2209 stepper motor drivers integrated. For the touchscreen, we need the TFT 35 version 3 and not the E3 version, which is too tall and won't fit in our available space. The basis for my working firmware was from the Big Tree Tech GitHub and is Marlin 2.0. I then took most of my specific configuration from Marlin for Monoprice Mini Delta run by Michael Chia. This firmware is an excellent upgrade if you're still running the factory mainboard. The combination of these 2 sources is linked below to download for free. Almost everything should be set up exactly how you need it, apart from one portion, and that's choosing which stepper motor drivers you're using. In my case, it's LV8729 because I had some spare ones lying around. If you were using other TMC drivers, you can edit the stepper drivers section and then do some further fine tuning in Configuration Advanced under the section TMC Smart. Whether you recompile it yourself or use the file from my download, place firmware.bin on an SD card, pop it into the mainboard with the power off, and then power on, wait around 5 to 10 seconds, and you should see the Marlin 2.0 boot screen, followed by the status screen that says Marlin Monoprice Mini to go. The standard firmware on the TFT 35 will work perfectly, but if you do want to customize it, I've got a video guide on that too. Let's get both of these physically fitted. For the mainboard, we have one large adapter and then a small retaining piece for the power plug. It prints on its face to avoid needing support. For the TFT, we also have 2 parts. A main housing that prints on its faceplate to once again avoid needing support, and then this bottom lid, which once removed gives us appropriate access to get the TFT in place. Once these parts are printed, we can disassemble the printer, and I recommend taking off the top lid so we can place the printer upside down. Now we'll take off the bottom cover that holds the cooling fan. Make sure to unplug this as you remove it. It's pretty easy to get the printer apart as most of it is modular. These small black screws are used all around the frame, and you should remove and store safely all of the ones on the side of the mainboard. This may also include some of the screws in the top half of the printer, as we're going to need to flex open the frame to fit our first printed part. After this, we can undo the 4 screws that hold on the factory mainboard and turn our attention to wiring up the new one. Here is the wiring diagram for the conversion. It's linked in the description so you can print it out if you like. About half is plug and play and the other half requires minor modifications. We'll work our way through the list. The new mainboard uses screw terminals, but the original one has a power jack mounted on board. You can either desolder this one or get a spare from an electronics shop. This first version I did had wiring too short, but it shows our end goal. We're going to solder on red and black wires as seen in this diagram. The back vertical section being red for positive, and the remaining 2 pins in the body of the jack both being negative. For For both sets of wires going to either the heated bed or the hot end, we're going to snip off the existing plug and crimp on some other connectors. The factory optical end stops I just couldn't get to work, so I switched to some spare mechanical end stops instead. The new switches had a different size plug, so I carefully pried off the plastic connector, used a tiny drill bit to open up the holes, and then pushed the old connector onto the new micro switches. After this, you'll need to double check the order of your wiring. And another problem I had to solve were the pins sticking out on the new micro switches, so I 3D printed this small adapter part that allowed them to be mounted on the printer without any of the pins shorting on the metal frame. The 3 switches on the underside of the bed for nozzle probing need to be combined into a single output plug that goes into the new mainboard. The fan on the hot end heatsink needs its plug snipped off, and instead we insert these 2 wires into the screw terminals. The only remaining asterisk is for the part cooling fan, and that's because as standard the printer doesn't come with one. The new board will let you easily add one if you wanted to. I'd now recommend inserting as many of the plugs as possible into the new mainboard, and as you unplug something from the old mainboard, use a Sharpie to label it for future reference. We can now physically mount our new mainboard to the printer with our printed adapter. We're going to start by fitting our input power jack, and we're going to mount it with the wires facing upwards. We're going to turn around the printed part, lever it into place, flex the face back until it snaps into position, and then back on the inside, we're going to take our printed cap, using M3x16mm bolts to hold the plug firmly in place. It should be perfectly aligned from the outside of the machine. During this next step, there should be enough play to lift the mainboard and wiring out of the way. And if you've undone enough screws, the frame should flex open enough for the printed part to fit in. We're going to start by lining up the existing mounts with the 4 holes on the underside. We lower it into position and then flex the edge of the frame open and line up the prongs with the gap in the printed parts. After this, we can work our way around the machine, replacing all of the screws that we undid. With the frame back together, we can now use 4 M3 bolts to secure the new mainboard to the printed part. With these in place, it should be plenty secure. The old touchscreen is incompatible, so you'll need to disassemble it until you can retrieve this metal bracket, which we're going to reuse for mounting. Before we go any further, in the back of the TFT, we're going to plug in the ribbon cable to expansion 3 and the black cable into RS323. There should be plenty of room to slot the TFT into place, lining up the reset button and encoder dial with the hole on the underside. We now use 4 M3 bolts to cut into the printed part and hold the TFT in place. With this done, we can flip it over and press back on the knob for the encoder wheel. Hopefully everything is fitting perfectly. We'll now take the bracket from the Monoprice Mini Delta and feed through the 2 cables through the largest of the holes. After this, we use the original black M3 screws to bolt the printed mount to the metal plate. The bottom of our adapter is exposed, so now we take our printed part and line up the cutaway where the ribbon cables are, and again use M3 hardware to secure this in place. This subassembly now bolts straight back onto the printer, just like the original screen did. You can now plug in the 2 TFT cables into the SKR Mini mainboard as shown. The factory metal plate that holds the electronics cooling fan can now be bolted back into its original position, except in my case, where the heat sinks I added to the stepper motor drivers were too tall and everything clashed underneath. I never liked the stick-on feet that came with the original printer, and if you're the same, you can use these TPU feet that I designed for the portable case. Insert an M3 washer and then an M3 bolt in each of the 4 holes, and then this just screws straight into the metal frame in place of the short factory screws. Our printer is now back together, and we have the option to print from a USB flash drive, or alternatively an SD card. Before you print, there's some calibration that you must do for your Mini Delta. The first being G33P2 through a terminal, which will cause the printer to home and then move down and probe the bed in multiple positions, repeating this until it finds accurate values. Mine's still printed without doing this, but each printer is slightly different and you'll get the best results by doing this fine tuning. After a few cycles, the standard deviation will come down and the console will spit out a bunch of numbers related to your printer. You can then enter them with M665 before storing with M500. I'd also recommend a PID auto tune for the hot end at whatever temperature you regularly print with. In your slicer, add G29 after G28 in the start G code. At the start of the print, 25 points will be probed, and after this, when the print starts, you'll need to set your Z offset. I found mine was about 0.3mm. Save this and then let the print complete. I was relieved to find that the printer had lost none of its quality, despite being a lot quieter and more user-friendly. That concludes part 1, and if you'd like to stop there, all of the files are linked below for free in the description. Let's commence with part 2, making this thing portable. I've actually been planning to design a portable printer for a long time. This video was shared with my patrons back in December 2018. The Easy 3D Nano was my original target, but the Monoprice Mini Delta is a lot more suitable. A portable printer should be 12 volts, compact and lightweight, have no external moving parts like a Delta, and also be a good printer to start with, otherwise what's the point? 12 volts means your printer will be compatible with car power sources and batteries, as well as most portable solar panels. In addition to the printer, you're going to need some large capacity 3-cell lipo batteries. I got these ones delivered from Banggood, and they have circuit protection against shorts as well as the battery voltage running too low. You'll need to extend the wiring and put some spade terminals on the end. The other thing we'll need is a double pole, double throw switch. As you can see, there's 2 on positions to suit our 2 inputs, battery and external, and there are 6 terminals on the underside. The other thing we need are some high capacity capacitors. In my case, I used 4 of these. On the 2 end terminals of the switch, we have our inputs from our DC power supply, as well as our LiPo batteries. Our center terminals go to the 3D printer mainboard, and we have our capacitors attached in parallel. When we switch off the printer normally, the capacitors keep it running for a split second. This means that if we flick the switch between the 2 power sources fast enough, we can change from LiPo to external and vice versa without interrupting printing. Fitment is actually quite straightforward, and the main concern is printing all of these parts, none of which require support. You may need to do a non-uniform scale on the Z-axis of the 2 holder pieces, depending on the thickness of your batteries. The largest part was hard to design accurately, so I laser cut templates to test my dimensions. This worked a lot better with stiff cardboard rather than floppy paper. We're going to reuse the fan plate, except the wire will no longer reach, so you can either cut and extend or make an extension piece like I did. Also, before we start, we want to wire up everything to the switch besides the LiPo batteries. These initial capacitors I used were nowhere near big enough. Here's 4 of the ones I showed earlier, wired in parallel and going to the center terminals of the switch. They fit quite nicely in the gap between one of the stepper motors and the mainboard. The largest printed piece simply rests in place, and we use long M3 bolts to reach through and secure it to the metal frame beneath. The 2 batteries now go into their resting spaces on either side of the printed piece. I'd recommend covering the exposed terminals with tape to prevent any accidents. We can now make our final connections by connecting the batteries in parallel with the remaining 2 terminals of the switch. The switch can also be secured inside the plastic housing. Take care to test and have the switch in the correct orientation to match what's on the printed case. Now is also a good time to turn it on and make sure that everything is working. The next part of the frame needs some pre-assembly, putting on the 2 flaps. Printing these at 1.5mm thickness worked best for my setup. The other piece that needs assembly is the little inspection flap, and you use 2 M3x16 bolts from the sides to secure it in place. Our lower frame piece now rests on top of the batteries, and then we line up the TPU feet and the bolts and screw them in. If you're using a power tool like I am, do it very slowly, otherwise you'll just heat up and melt the plastic. I now connect the electronics cooling fan to my extension wire and bolt back on the metal plate underneath. Unfortunately, the inspection flap is woefully undersized. The metal plate will have to come off to charge the batteries. Everything's back together. It's a little bit bulkier, it's a fair bit heavier from the lipos in the bottom, but it has outstanding new capabilities. Check out this. Yes, I know that was a frivolous example, but it was more of a proof of concept. There are actually some useful ways in which you could use a setup like this. Firstly, if you're a person who's attended a fundraiser where you're cooking and selling food, and it might not necessarily be anywhere near a power outlet, the novelty of having a 3D printer on hand might be what you need to get people over to you and to get their business instead of someone else. Secondly, for someone who's entrepreneurial and could take this to some sort of gathering, quickly design, slice and print personalized keyrings or name tags that print in only around 10 minutes. Thirdly, being a Delta, the round build volume makes it absolutely ideal for printing something in high demand. Linked in the description is this short video by my patron Rito. It's only a couple of minutes long, but is really well made and shows a 3D printer printing some toilet paper. Not that long ago, that would have been a crazy idea, but lately the world has changed and there is a need to manufacture things on demand, perhaps in unusual situations. By now you've no doubt seen the article doing the rounds, where 3D printers were used to make some specific valves that were donated to a hospital in Italy that was desperately short on supply. Joel from 3D Printing Nerd just made an excellent video outlining some really useful ways that you can help with your 3D printer. There's a Facebook group trying to organize people with 3D printers to manufacture objects that might be of use to hospitals. There's also a couple of designs of printable face masks and respirators. I'm sure a lot of people into 3D printing all of a sudden feel like they have the tools to create a real difference in a global crisis, but a word of caution. Imagine printing dozens of the valves from the Italian story, only to find your local hospital uses a completely different system and they're useless. All you've done in that instance is waste time in filament and put yourself in a very dangerous place to be another possible person who becomes infected. Please contact your local medical center or hospital before you start to manufacture anything that you think might help. Currently, as makers, we have the tremendous opportunity to make a real difference, but we need to be careful about it to make sure we're part of the solution and not furthering the problem. Have you got any thoughts on this portable 3D printer? Please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy portable 3D printing. G'day, it's Michael again. If you liked the video, then please click like. If you want to see more content like this in future, click subscribe and make sure you click on the bell to receive every notification. If you really want to support the channel and see exclusive content, become a patron. Visit my Patreon page. See you next time.